Hi everybody, my name's Russ Hamker, and I'm a customer like yourselves, and vMug leader, and vExpert, VCP, and family man. Anyway, today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about link clones with PowerCLI. Can I have a hand of anybody that's done anything with PowerCLI? Got a couple of PowerCLI guys out there. Thank you very much. So, this presentation is about link clones with PowerCLI and how you can use them for all kinds of different things. So, the big thing is that with link clones, you can save time, resources, rapid deployment, and do a lot of different testing as well. I should also mention backups in there as well. I have a kind of a different list of things that I've used link clones for. Primarily we use it in my company's environment for QA and testing. We also are spinning it up for SQL servers as well, so we can have one single parent SQL server with a lot of storage being used, and then we can link clone it out, and there's almost no storage on the other end for people doing testing, except when they're doing writes to it. So step back a little bit, what are link clones? Link clones are made by VMware. They're a product that came about when Horizon View came out, and they allow for basically one virtual machine as a parent, and then you can have spawn off many different virtual machines off of it. PowerCLI, what is it? So most of you guys know what PowerCLI is, so I won't talk too much about this, but I will say this is probably the biggest tool in any admin's arsenal, in my opinion, to really do any kind of automation at all. So if you guys haven't used PowerShell or PowerCLI yet, I heavily recommend digging into it. So the overall process for link clones, there's just quite a few steps. I kind of document them out here of just, you know, laundry list of things to do. With that, you start with your parent. So you set up a desktop OS, you set up yourself your SQL server, you set up your Oracle database. Whatever the application is, I don't care. As long as it's an OS and you can clone it, this can do it. Primarily, my use case is always with Windows. I know there's other use cases out there as well with PowerCLI and link clones. Unfortunately, I'm a Windows man, so. Anyway, the best process for this is really just shut the VM down after you've done set up your parent as such, and then you take a snapshot of it, and then you create link clones from it. With that link clone process, you also use an OS customization to actually do your sys prepping of it. This is kind of a makeshift method here of what VMware View already does. It's not as fast by any means, but it definitely does the job really well. It also gets your box on the domain. There's also a couple other things you can do as well. I put optional on here. One of the biggest things I like to do is after the VM process is done, I like to have the VM get shut down, and then I also like to take a snapshot of it again, the link clone. That way, when you present it to the end user, if they mess it up, or if it's for SQL testing and they run a SQL script on it and it botches SQL, well, guess what? You just hit revert and it's back up and going in, you know, 10 seconds for them. I can also do a little diagram here about how the link clone process itself works. Basically, this goes over what I just talked about there overall. So I want to talk a little bit here too about snapshots under the covers for both standard snapshots and vVols. How many people have used vVols in the audience here? Good. Some people have had some playing around with that there. That's good. So with standard snapshots, everybody kind of knows that basically you take a snapshot, the main VMDK, you stop writing to it, there's a Delta file, it starts writing to that. The great thing is any storage can do this. Doesn't matter what your storage is. Snapshots are very fast and simple. The negatives are, though, that especially if you're doing a parent virtual machine that you want to leave on, particularly for some reason, that you're going to have a snapshot stun when the snapshot's created and also when the snapshot is removed. And when snapshots grow, they can also cause performance issues as well. So big thing is parent VM, make sure to put it on SSD storage, make sure to watch your growth. vVols, one of the new things from VMware. I'm pretty interested in the product myself. I think they have a lot of great features with it. But with vVol, snapshots all done at the metadata layer on the SAN. So the SAN's doing all the heavy lifting for doing all your snapshots instead. How does that benefit you guys? Basically, instead of having to make other files and stop writing to one and start writing to the other, the SAN actually says, hey, this is the point here where I'm actually going to do all the reads for all your link clones. Now I will say link clones are not as fast on vVol specifically in the means of the initial generation, but in the overall performance, there's some key benefits to it as well. So you have to weigh, do you need to spin up a lot of link clones really fast, or do you want to have performance? Or do you want to have both? And the big thing is just get really fast storage, obviously. So with snapshots, I kind of went over a little bit of this here. So some of the negatives, one of the big things I want to talk about is that basically file growth is bad for the standard snapshot. So especially if you're doing big changes, like with SQL, you're running a SQL script that does a massive amount of table changes or adds a whole row to a table. I mean, all of a sudden you're doing a tremendous amount of writes back to that other VMDK on the link clone. So you have to kind of watch out for growth again. It also is slower. vVols 2.0, I'd make sure to recommend. Most SAN vendors don't even have 1.0. With the vVols, again, the big thing that you need to watch out for, I already mentioned it, is that the process is not as fast, especially in creation and deletion and snapshotting itself. At least that's my cases with my Unity SAN that I use today. I think that's all kind of in process and working, but I really do like the concept of it as a whole still. So I kind of have a laundry list here of items you need for successful link clone experience. Kind of bullet them out here for you. So obviously you need PowerCLI. You need to have a vCenter admin account. Preferably needs admin rights if you're actually going to create virtual machines. Doesn't necessarily have to be full vCenter admin. You can have it where it's not, but it's simpler for concepts of setting it all up. Windows domain on which to put your VM on, obviously, your parent virtual machine. Folder location is something I'm pretty big about. VMware View also does this as well, but it's really a good idea to put those link clones into another folder. That way, if you need to give permissions for console access or any kind of permissions to an end user, you can set the permissions just for those link clones. Really good for support people too, if the support people need to get on there. Target Active Directory organizational unit, same kind of thing. Set up a separate OU if you can for this. Big thing is then that way you can apply your own group policies, target those machines only, and not have to worry about anything else. Other than that, the other big thing is with my script that I have written, I just have a CSV file that's for all the link clones. It's just the name of it, the data store you want to put the VMs on. And then I also like to do the MAC address. So one of the little tidbits there is when you destroy the VMs and recreate them, I like to have the same MAC address. That way you don't have to worry about anything with ARP or DNS or anything else. It's all just the same every time. Now, if you don't have to actually document the MAC addresses, my script does that all automatically. Another kind of key benefit for it as well. There's some things to watch out for with this whole process in general, and just kind of do's and don'ts. So the big thing is make sure you encrypt your login and your password. Do both. Don't do just the password. Because if you just do the password, that's half of it, right? But if you do everything, there's a 100% chance that they're not going to be able to get it unless they're reading your RAM while the script is actually actively running. Other than that, have an Active Directory account. Has to have create and delete privileges on the organizational units for which you're actually presenting those VMs on. Other than that, set up a PowerCLI scheduling server. We use a Windows server for this. I use a set of them using DFS specifically. Replicate the scripts between both of them that way in case of a failure of one of the VMs or I'm doing updates or whatever. At least I got a copy somewhere else. Then I just use the Windows scheduler to take care of it for actually running the scripts themselves. Now you can also use Orchestrator. There's also VMware Automation. The big thing still is you still got the underlying Shell or PowerCLI to do all the work for you. Other than that, I kind of talk about some other good do's and don'ts here, like if you're using a Windows server, set up file shadow copy, protect yourself, especially if you're editing your code or anything like that. You want to make sure that you can revert back if you need to. I also like to do separate copies of my code, so I'll keep older versions of it and just put dates on the end of it. That's what I do. Just that way you don't have to worry about losing your data here. So to keep moving on here, link clone process, how does it work exactly? So I wrote a very nice diagram here, and I apologize it's not bigger and easier to read, but it is kind of a complex logic process, but there's really only 3 processes to it. There's a logic process, and all it's really doing is doing a bunch of fact checking up front. The first time you run the script itself, it actually asks you a bunch of questions. You fill in the blanks. It creates a CSV file as an answer file for the future. Then it also creates a few other files as well, like an AES encryption file, a user account file that's encrypted using the AES encryption key, and also the password file. It's AES encrypted as well. After that, you connect to vCenter. You have your cleanup process. The cleanup process basically just checks there any link clones that are already presented that were on your list, and it just shuts them down, destroys them. Then you go through the process after that of actually creating a snapshot on your parent virtual machine, shutting it down, and actually then presenting out your VMs via link clones. Other than that, I have attached my scripts for you guys for this presentation. I'll probably give them as well here to Mr. Alistair. Alistair, thank you again for having me today. But you guys can get a copy of this and start playing with link clones yourself. I also include a few other scripts on here as well, like installing PowerCLI itself. I don't know if anybody's aware, but there's no more EXE for loading PowerCLI any longer. You got to run a script to actually do it, or just run a couple of commands. Now I've made a very nice script that will actually chew through and uninstall any old version, install the new one automatically for you. Simplify the process, that way you don't have to know anything about how to do it in the future. Other than that, I also have my SQL script on here as well that I like to use for renaming your SQL instances when you do link clones. What questions do you guys have? Well guys, thank you all very much for having me today.